Welcome to another podcast summary of the Great Controversy. Today, we will study the awakening in Spain. This chapter was compiled by Mr. Chrysler and Mr. Hall and inserted in this work, The Great Controversy, with the approval of the author Ellen G. White. In an ever freedom-loving Spain, the Spanish clergy constantly sought to return the church to primitive Christianity. It was precisely in order to annihilate the spirit of freedom, characteristic of the Spanish people, that in 1483, Ferdinand and Isabella allowed the establishment of the Inquisition as a permanent court in Castilla, with Thomas de Torquemada as Inquisitor General. It was no easy task for the merchants to outwit the vigilance of the henchmen of the Inquisition, who did everything they could to stamp out the Reformed doctrines with the intention of stemming the tide of literature that was flooding into the country from other places such as Germany, Italy, or Switzerland. Year after year, we can read, during the greater part of the 16th century, constant efforts were made to supply the people with Bibles and New Testaments in Castilian and with the writings of the Reformers. While the smuggling of the Bibles and New Testaments was increasing, the Inquisition tried to redouble vigilance to prevent these books from getting into the hands of the people. The relationship between Spain and Germany with the Netherlands was close due to the extension of Charles V's empire. This linkage allowed people close to the monarch to be exposed to European Reformed teachings. Alfonso de Valdez, imperial secretary, had the opportunity to be present in Worms in 1521. There he was able to meet Luther, and about 10 years later, he had the opportunity to meet Melanchthon in Augsburg. His exposure to the reformist thesis caused Alfonso to be condemned as a suspect of Lutheranism. Alfonso's brother, Juan de Valdez, was one of the first reformers to use the printing press to spread the knowledge of the biblical truth. His work contributed greatly to lay the foundations of Protestantism in Spain. It is interesting to read in this chapter about the roots of Protestantism in places like Valladolid or Seville. From the Catholic Church itself, in its convents, the love for the truth and the desire to make the Bible known to the people is a testimony of those times in which, as the historian states, perhaps never before in any country was there such a large portion of illustrious people, because of their birth or their knowledge, among those converted to a new and outlawed religion. This circumstance helps to explain the singular fact that a group of dissidents that would not be less than 2,000 people, scattered in such a vast country and weakly related to each other, had managed to communicate their ideas and have their private meetings for a number of years, without being discovered by a court as zealous as that of the Inquisition. Many relevant characters are cited throughout the chapter that recounts the advance of the Reformed faith. Despite the power and preeminence of the Catholic Church in Spain, it had not been possible to counteract the secret advance of the Protestant movement. Year after year, it grew stronger as the adherents of the new faith were counted by the thousands. We're told that believers were leaving for Europe to enjoy the religious freedom of other countries, or to continue editing written material that they would bring back to Spain, in order to continue proclaiming the truths that filled their hearts. Therefore, in 1556, Juan Perez, who lived in Geneva, finished his Spanish version of the New Testament. Through the colporteur Julian Hernandez, this edition of the New Testament was the first Protestant version to reach a fairly large circulation in Spain. This precious work cost the life of the colporteur, who paid at the stake for the audacity of bringing the Word of God to the Spanish people. Silently and with eagerness, the names of hundreds of believers were obtained, and at the appointed time and without warning, they were simultaneously captured and imprisoned. In Seville, in Valladolid, in Toledo, Valencia, Granada, and Murcia, the many martyrs who died in the bonfires of the Inquisition testified to the difficulties our ancestors had to live a faith that we can enjoy in freedom. Such was the fate of many in Spain who had identified themselves intimately with the Protestant Reformation of the 16th century. But from this, we must not draw the conclusion that the Spanish martyrs sacrificed their lives and shed their blood in vain. They offered to God sacrifices of pleasing scent. They left in favor of the truth a testimony that was not completely lost. Dear friends, How much dedication and great sacrifice were experienced by those who even gave their lives so that today we have a copy of the Bible with the truth in our hands. The history of sacrifice should urge us to persevere and continue firm and forward, believing and trusting in the God who defends freedom.